time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell.
There's a natural substance that cleans out cancer tissue so well that I refer to it as nature's scalpel.
I saw 8 specialists, and I can say one thing they did agree on was that I was going to be horribly disfigured and probably lose my nose. Apart from that, they couldn't agree on anything.
I had a large cancerous hole in the side of my nose. I could put my thumb in. I cured it with one treatment, and believe me, I won the lotto.
I didn't want to be cut up. I didn't want to have chemo. I didn't want to have radiation. I chose the natural way, and I have no cancer cells today.
In every case where I have treated primary breast cancer with this particular cream, we have had 100% success.
Believe it or not, this amazing cream is illegal. Because of that, I nearly lost my life, and that makes me really angry. How would you feel if some faceless bureaucrat denied you a safe natural cure for cancer?
My name is Tony Barry. I'm an Australian actor and an activist, and I have a story to tell you. It's about 2 cancer treatments. I've used them both. One is dangerous, it doesn't cure, and it can even kill, yet it is legal. The other is a safe, effective alternative that has never harmed anyone, yet it is illegal.
And Big Pharma and Big Government are determined to keep it that way. They're not going to like it a bit, but we are going to show you exactly how to make this lifesaver for yourself.
Governments don't like cheap, natural cancer cures due to Big Pharma pressure. They've proven that through their long history of imprisoning alternative doctors and herbalists while supporting drug manufacturers and passing laws that permit them to get away with murder.
This young woman was terrified when she was diagnosed with cancer. If she had followed the advice of her doctors, she could have lost a portion of her head and possibly her life. Fortunately, she chose a herbal cream, and the cancer popped out in one big safe piece, leaving the surrounding tissue intact.
What are these creams that remove cancers from the body? Well, technically, they are known as escherichia cells, and they've been curing cancers of all kinds for 2,000 years. When prepared correctly, they seek out and destroy cancer cells, removing the underlying tumour all the way down to the roots.
That was exactly what I should have used when I learned I had skin cancer. But I blew it and made the biggest mistake of my life.
Elaine says that she overreacted after being diagnosed with skin cancer. It was tiny and it wasn't growing. If she had just taken the time then to research, she would have discovered the safe way to eliminate skin cancers. I had to learn the hard way myself. I was prescribed Aldara, made by 3M Pharmaceuticals, and the side effects were so disturbing that I threw it in the bin. These days, I put my faith in a black salve. This is working for me.
Amen.
I must stop now and warn you about what you're about to see. This is not for the faint-hearted. This is about Aldara victims, and some of their stories and images are devastating. But please don't get depressed, because later you will meet people who have cured cancers of many different kinds, and they've done it naturally and safely. So there is a happy ending in store for you, and it will give you hope.
It would have been much better if Aldara had just killed me outright in 2000. My family has been through a complete devastation, both financially and emotionally. I've had to endure 9 years of pain and suffering, and I'll continue to do that until I die.
I'm unable to eat. My body hurts. Everywhere there's a muscle, I have pain. It's almost like there's a fire happening inside all of my muscles. My muscles ache, my muscles burn.
What the Aldara did to me and how ill I was and the weight I'd lost and coughing up blood and my face looked like I was hit with a bus. And at the end of the tunnel, it just fixed nothing.
I ended up with great red sores that actually broke open and started to bleed.
I had oozing sores, or at least 10, perhaps 12 oozing sores on my chest.
I got a great big lump in my throat during the middle of the night, and believe me, it was like a big egg on the side of my throat.
I was unable to get out of bed. I felt depressed. I was in a very bad way. My whole body had been poisoned. I actually thought I was going to die.
I'm very worried that I have got some permanent damage that might cause me future problems.
All the Aldara victims I've talked with are fearful of the future. Of course, some lucky people have used it without immediate bad effects. But because Aldara compromises immune systems and glands, it can be a time bomb lying in wait to strike, years after using it, and you won't even know what hit you. Then, perhaps your immune system is so strong you won't be affected at all. Are you feeling lucky?
I was feared. I never had a day's sickness in my life. And I couldn't believe when I started taking the Aldara how I went downhill and how ill I was and nearly blind. I couldn't believe it.
These are my legs after the Aldara treatment. You'll notice on this leg it goes, the wound, which is open, goes almost from my knee to my ankle, and these black islands are the cancers.
I was so weak I couldn't get out of bed. I really thought that I was going to die. I still believe if I had continued the 12-week prescribed Aldara treatments, I would have died.
After this had occurred, it took another doctor 2 months to heal the open wounds before we could ever deal with the cancers that had not been affected by the Aldara.
My skin hurts so badly that I can't hold my grandbabies in my lap. And the diarrhea is so severe that I can hardly leave my house.
I also broke out in a rash from the Aldara, and the doctor finally told me it was a side effect of Aldara. And the rash went from my chin to my feet, was all over my body.
I have constant pain. Some days, doing simple tasks like carrying laundry, walking up and down the stairs is impossible.
My skin's immune system has been compromised for the rest of my life. And of course I have scarring from the Aldara.
I don't understand how a drug that can be so dangerous and cause so many problems can be so freely prescribed.
If it were not for the internet, Big Pharma wouldn't have anyone to expose them. Aldara is an example. Victims have no idea why their bodies fall apart after using it, and many get information only through the internet.
Some with frightening photographs of Aldara victims. Soon after that drop, 3M put Aldara on the market. How marvelous that two people with no clout whatsoever, a deathly ill Texan and a poisoned, white-haired old lady in Australia, could have so much influence. It gives us hope for the future.
Despite all the negative publicity and Richard Beasley's successful lawsuit, 3M managed to sell their pharmaceutical division. There were many buyers in many countries, so people all over the world need to be warned about Aldara. But remember, drug pushers, legal or illegal, are devious, so they may decide to change the name because of Aldara's bad reputation. The active ingredient, imiquimod, however, will remain the same.
If I trusted the doctors, I wouldn't be here. It's as simple as that.
At first I was very nervous. Oh my God, this stuff, it's black. And, so I put a tiny bit on and it had a massive reaction. It just went for the cancer.
Everything revolved around me saving my own hide with my own hands rather than relying on the butchers.
It's quite amazing. You can feel it actually almost like it's withdrawing out of there. It's great because you know something's happening.
When artist Fiona Pattinson was diagnosed with a basal cell infiltrating nodular skin cancer, she consulted many specialists. She wasn't encouraged by what she learnt.
They just take a big dig and hope for the best. And I said to one plastic surgeon, I said, well, what happens if you don't get all the cells? He goes, oh, well, it'll just come back and we'll have to do it again. And I go, great, right. So then I decided to go down to Melbourne to the top guys down there. Same deal. They all had a totally different opinion and they were all fighting amongst themselves anyway, and no one could guarantee that I wasn't going to come out with a piece of plastic as a fake nose.
Because Fiona knew how crucial it is to eliminate the roots of cancers, she researched and discovered that Escharotics are the only treatment that cleans out cancers all the way down to the roots. So she put her trust in an Escharotic black salve, even though they were illegal, and all the specialists had warned her against them.
It just went for the cancer, then it swelled up, then the eschar formed, and because it's like a splinter, there are dead cells, or they're foreign particles that your body naturally has to push it out. And so it pushed it out and I was left with a big hole. I'm thinking, okay, I'm just going to trust in all of the research and the info and going to treat it like a wound and do the right things. And sure enough, my body filled the hole up, which it does. My nose looked perfectly fine after about probably 8 months. It looked better and better all the time. I just wore a paper tape over it for the scarring, to flatten the scarring. And here it is now, and it's perfectly fine.
Graham Heron and his wife Di named his melanoma Wilson, after Tom Hanks' basketball in the film Castaway. Then they murdered Wilson using black salve.
Yeah, the interesting part about the black salve, once you put it on, within the first few hours you can feel it drawing, and as time goes on, like the 24 hours that you have the tape over it, I could feel it going into all parts of what obviously were the roots of this cancer. It finally came out in the end, it was all clean, and all there was this body of Wilson, which was just an ugly mess, looked like a horrible looking sea creature or something. We had a little cremation ceremony and burnt him. And that was Wilson's demise. It's been 5.5 years since I got rid of melanoma with absolutely no reoccurrence. So it's very, very pleasing result.
It was about 8 years ago that I had an operation, and they took my left ear off to get a BCC that was inside of my ear, and they also did an operation on my nose and a skin graft on my nose, and several other BCCs were taken out. In fact, there were 300 stitches. After the operation, they'd done a test and they told me that it was all clear. My cousin Alan had extensive surgery on one side of his face, and they gave him a plastic thing to wear over the side of his face when he went out to hide the scarring. And he died 6 months later. The cancer went to his brain. It was things like that I'd seen that turned me away from having my second operation. Even though they say we've got the ends, they don't ever know. That's why they keep coming back. They only guess where the ends are. And when they do that to a melanoma, they can cause death in weeks.
During biopsies, clumps or clusters of cancer cells can break away from the primary tumour and travel in the lymph and the blood to secondary organs, usually organs of detoxification, where indeed they can form secondary tumours, and it's these secondary tumours or metastases that are often fatal. I know of no safety studies whatsoever to demonstrate that these procedures are safe and effective. Indeed, they may well prove to be very, very risky procedures.
It was about 2 months later that they told me I had to go back and have a more extensive operation, and that was on the left side of my face, where a tumour had, the roots of a tumour had gone in behind my eye, and I'd probably lose my left eye. yeah, that's when I got desperate. When I found the black salve and I found how it worked and it dug out cancer cells, it was a whole new lease of life for me.
Black salve saved my life too. The cancer had spread, hidden for a long time by scars Aldara had caused, and red lines indicating cancer had spread over my cheeks, starting from here. I found the courage to prick the skin near the cancer, just a little, so the salve could go in. Next day, the red lines started drawing back as the salve drew the cancer to the main site. It leaked out for days, black and yellow and white pus, and painful. It wasn't fun. But if a dermatologist had tried to cut out all those cancer cells, it would have been bye-bye nose, bye-bye a large part of my face, and hello roots, because there's not a surgeon alive who could have removed them.
I was diagnosed with basal cell carcinoma, quite a big one on the tip of my nose. I had a biopsy and it was aggressive. The doctors here recommended either wide excision surgery or Mohs surgery. I couldn't get Mohs in Bangkok. I could in Australia or New Zealand, but it was very expensive. So I started to look at alternatives for surgery. I thought, is there any product at all that just attacks the cancer and leaves the good cells so that I could save the end of my nose? I went on the internet and I was very scared by that because this site came up, Quackwatch, by Dr. Stephen Barrett, with a lot of very graphic photos of people that used black salve to ill effect. And I didn't know that that was a complete sham, that website at the time, so I was very nervous. A friend gave me Elaine Hollingsworth's book, and Elaine recommended not having surgery as a first option, but trying this natural remedy called black salve.
Bill O'Leary, an Australian living in Thailand, had the courage to think for himself. He ignored the so-called experts and took control of his own health.
I was very lucky to have been shown by Elaine in her book that this is an alternative treatment which isn't quackery, which is the real deal, and which has seemed to have been either forgotten or certainly not promoted, and maybe even conspired against by big pharmaceutical and surgeons, dermatologists, because they stand to lose billions of dollars if these treatments get out to the public, because you can make this stuff at home, you can't patent it, and there's billions of dollars that will be lost to the medical fraternity if people take control of their own health. It worked for me, and it left a big hole in the end of my nose, and I thought, well, that's okay, at least it's only taken the cancerous cells. And I thought, well, I'll just get some cosmetic surgery later, but I didn't even need to do that. As you can see, I'm still a very handsome bloke, and the end of my nose is okay, and a little bit of a scar, and I got a head on me like a busted crab anyway, so another couple of scars are only going to make it a little bit more debonair, so it didn't worry. I actually hate to go to anywhere that's going to cut me open. I'm a firm believer that the biopsy that I had on this as well, it kicked the thing into overdrive. Just sticking a knife into it really annoyed it, and it really took off. And I was on a boat in Indonesia after they did the biopsy, and that month down there I couldn't get to a surgeon, I couldn't get to anybody to treat it. It quadrupled in size since they stick a knife in it. So thanks, Elaine. Thanks for saving my nose. Not bad, eh?
To legalize black salve would be simple. It can be done tomorrow, but it's not going to happen. Because if that were to happen, the dermatologists would be simply put out of business. So what happens instead? Well, the victims keep piling up. The money keeps rolling into the pockets of the dermatologists and big pharma and the politicians and the corrupt bureaucrats. And that's the way the system works.
The really sad part about this whole process is that if they did shut the people down that sell it now, that make it and sell it now, where would you go? Particularly someone like me, if I got it again, and I know that it works, where would I go? It would be devastating.
Black salve has had many names. Can Clear, Spot Check, Compound X, Indian Mud, Dr. Hoxie's formula. We prefer the name black salve because of its color and its 2,000-year-old formula. Some people call the cream Cansema, a name that was copyrighted by an American who claims it's his formula. But unless he's 2,000 years old, I don't think so. Black salve is ancient and it belongs to the world.
When I finished the Eldara, I had a hole in my face that I could put my thumb into. We put the Cansema in the hole. I had all this pus that came out through the hole, and over a period of about 28 or 29 days, that this huge hole that I could put my thumb in was completely healed up on my face. It was a miracle. Going through the treatment with the Eldara, I was sure that I was going to die. And then to get this Cansema to do the job that it did, I mean, you've got to be the happiest person in the world because, you know, it was just brilliant. Why don't doctors use it?
When people ask me why doctors don't use black salve or Cansema or whatever they choose to call it, I have a simple answer. They can't figure out any way to make money from it.
Exactly. So, what do? You've just been to your doctor, you've had this suspicious lump come up on your body, and he takes a look at it and with furrowed brow he says, yes, that looks dangerous to me, I think you've got to have it removed. You say to him, well, how are you going to remove that, doc? What are you going to do? You're going to cut it? You're going to use cryotherapy? You're going to freeze it off? Or are you going to radiate me? And he says, well, what would you prefer? Which one would you like? Draw a straw. They're all about as good as each other.
I'd had a doctor who was au fait with it say to me, look, it can't do you any harm because that stuff in your blood's going to knock out any cancer cells. And I really think it did. I think I might just slap a big piece on my leg just to get a bit in my blood and do another bit of a zappo, kill a few of the cancer cells off before they even get started.
Well, I had a melanoma on the arm, and I went to this doctor. He reckoned he was good at it, and he nicked away at it, and I went home, and it was no good. So I got the black stuff out, put it on, she just lifted it out like a .22 bullet. A hole like that. Next time I went to the doctor, he said, you didn't come for, I'll have to get onto that melanoma. I said, there's no melanoma, mate. She's all gone. He couldn't believe it. He said, give me a look. There's no sign of it. He said, I can't believe it. I said, you want to get some of that stuff? It's better than that knife. You can't use it, mate. I said, you better get some of that. I'll arrange it for you. He didn't take it. Oh, he said, we've only been taught the knife. Well, I said, you're no good on that. I can tell you for sure now.
Seriously, what do you do when you've been diagnosed with a life-threatening skin cancer? Well, you can certainly go down the medical route. You can have a large section of your skin removed, maybe some of the underlying glands. You can be left permanently scarred. If it's a melanoma, that's most likely what will happen. Or you can seek out this alternative treatment, which is demonstrated clinically over a long period of time, just how effective it is and how efficient it is in dealing with the problem that you've got at hand. I reckon you should vote for nature's scalpel rather than the doctor's scalpel. One's accurate, the other's guesswork. Up to you.
When I had the biopsy, I told the doctor I had to go to the toilet as soon as he'd finished, rushed to the bathroom, put the black salve on the biopsy hole, knowing that it would get straight through to wherever the cancer was.
Using the black salve was my lifesaver. Was my lifesaver. Every fibre of my being said, don't go conventional medicine this time. Try something different. Try the natural way. And I'm not sorry today that that's what I did.
I had used the black salve on my face for skin cancer, and I hadn't had any scarring and had really good results. I felt because of that I could confidently go forward and use it on my breast. It was scary, but the alternative was to have my breast cut up. So that made me courageous. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, the most frustrating thing was the way I was treated by the doctors. I'm educated, I run a business, and yet they treated me like I was an idiot. for even suggesting that I use this treatment. When I saw my doctor, he explained that I had inductal cancer. It was the most aggressive type, the Komodo, so the most aggressive of the 4 types, and he couldn't treat it with anything other than surgery. So no matter what he treated it with in the past, drugs, chemo, radiology, nothing had worked. But I treated it with the black salve, and I got rid of it completely. There's absolutely no cancer there now.
When they wanted to rush me into hospital for this breast operation, I kept having this feeling that I was being pushed into a mincer, and I didn't know what was going to come out the other side.
Wendy's breast cancer was a grade 2 infiltrating ductile carcinoma, 0.8 centimetres by 0.9 centimetres. Because she had used black salve previously on skin cancers with great success, Wendy decided to treat her breast cancer naturally. Using a matchstick, she put a little piece on each biopsy hole, then covered them with band-aids.
24 hours later, I had not one cancer, but 18 different cancer sites, some quite small, and still not knowing what else to do. I waited for them to heal up, and when they were healed, I did it again, got 18 more, and then a third time, this time only 12 reactions, and I could see the shape I'd seen on the X-ray and the ultrasound. Then I thought, we are symmetrical beings, I would try the other side, and I got a cancer 1 inch long exactly. I measured with a wooden ruler. I found another cancer, larger but not as deep because it didn't go as deep and the scarring's not the same. I found a little batch of cancers opposite the biopsy holes. Then I thought I'd be very brave and I tried my armpits. And I got over an 8-inch area. I got a forest of little cancers up and down there. That was really alarming because I didn't know if the cancer had gone any further.
It's worse than alarming, considering that the doctors and the x-rays and the ultrasounds all failed to pick up those additional cancers. Only black salve pinpointed all of them. Wendy and Peter were thrilled by their success and wanted to share it with the hospital nurses.
This nurse looked at the scars where the cancer had been taken, and she said, my, you have scalded yourself, haven't you? And another nurse told Peter that I really should have an operation because these alternate treatments, they're not very successful, you know. So I'm still wondering what they mean by success.
My father had cancer, stomach cancer, and they operated and they cut it out. He might have had much longer to live, but it shortened his life, it made it a misery, and it killed him, and I didn't want that to happen to me. My decision to go the alternative route was also because of friends I had that had breast cancer, far too many, some who've had surgery, some who've had chemo and radiation, and many with not a good result, and in some cases with secondaries that have killed them.
I've had people come into the clinic who are really desperate. They've been told that unless they have this particular lesion cut off their body yesterday, they're going to die tomorrow. It does seem to me, and in fact to a lot of observers, that the medical system is as much about fear as anything else. You know, unless you do this and do it now and pay this much money to have it done, you're going to die.
Fear causes the mammogram industry to thrive. Women are frightened into yearly mammograms, but are rarely warned that radiation is the leading cause of cancer. They don't realize that each mammogram shoots the equivalent of 1,000 chest x-rays into highly susceptible breast tissues. Beverly and Graham Bailey already understood this danger when she was diagnosed with breast cancer and refused radiation. But they didn't yet know about black salve. So Beverly endured 3 operations in 3 weeks and lost her left breast.
3 months later, my surgeon found a lump in my right breast and said it was exactly the same as the one in my left breast, and he scheduled more surgery. After much agonising and also much prayer, I decided to not go for the surgery again. I didn't want to be mutilated once more.
So, Beverly and her husband Graham researched and discovered black salve.
My husband was my main support. He applied the salve and encouraged me all the way through, which was fantastic. When the salve reacted in the area of the lump, it came out in the form of a lesion, and there was a lot of secretions and pus that came out for quite some time. Gradually that healed, and it took about 40 days for the full healing process to take place. I was just so elated. I think Telstra made lots of money that day when I rang everybody to give them the good news. That all happened 7 years ago. It seems a long time now, but I have had no recurrence and have remained very well.
In the course of my practice, I've treated probably between 50 and 60 women who'd been diagnosed with primary breast cancer. Applying the Cansema in my clinical experience has been 100% satisfactory. In every case, we've been able to effect a cure for these women from this breast cancer, from the primary tumour.
When I told the doctor who was treating me that I had decided to go with the black salve and the natural route, he just told me I was crazy, a nutcase, that I would die. Every other doctor that I saw that had been consulting with before that said the same thing. In fact, wrote letters to me saying that I was a crazy person and that I was going to die.
Will these black salves eliminate all forms of breast cancer? Will they eliminate many other forms of the scourge? That's not yet known. Trials should be undertaken, but trials cost millions, and they are financed by Big Pharma. So, hands up anyone who thinks that the companies that earn billions selling chemotherapy drugs will finance trials that would eliminate them.
I had Ewing sarcoma, I had 2 children, and death wasn't an option. Ewing sarcoma grows from the bone, it encapsulates tendons, muscles, it then will seek out any other form of life support, which will go into all your organs and consume your body. There's no survival rates. I'm yet.
Doctors estimated Tanya had 6 to 9 months to live. They recommended chemotherapy, saying it would extend that time by 3 months.
I wanted life, I wanted quality, I did not want to be sick in a bed, and so I said to them, thank you, but no thank you.
Tanya found a gifted and courageous biochemist. He taught her how to administer black salve. He warned her it would be painful and difficult, and it was. Ewing sarcoma is a virulent form of cancer, and eliminating it without qualified assistance would have been virtually impossible.
My biochemist encouraged me to understand that we would draw all the secondary tumours throughout my body back to the primary, which was my leg.
Throughout her ordeal, Tanya had the physical and emotional support of her entire extended family.
I am here today because of the treatment that I took and the process that I went through. The medical profession had nothing to offer me. 5 years later, I'm a survivor through the results of using natural therapy.
Big medicine claims Ewing sarcoma is incurable. They say the same thing about cancerous thyroids. They're wrong.
In 2005, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. The doctors and specialists at the hospital wanted to take my thyroid out using surgery. I have been a nurse, and I know that when you cut cancer, cancer spreads.
Ricky decided to treat herself using a black salve called Spot Check. A friend helped her, and they took photographs throughout the process. For 16 weeks they applied the salve. Ricky's New Zealand doctors were not pleased and tried to pressure her into surgery.
I got regular calls from the surgery and from the specialists at the hospital to say you must have this done over 6 weekly periods. The pressure was enormous, and I said thank you but no thank you. Oh, well, you won't live very long. And I said, well, I'll take my chances, thanks. Sometimes it'll take 2 to 3 weeks to draw all the muck and gump from the cells that have been damaged. You can have things like dental residue, operation, radiation, all kinds of things in those cells that the DNA is held. It will draw out. And however long your body needs to do that, it will take to do it. I was able, in that 16 weeks, to probably cover about 16, 17 lesions in total that came from the thyroid down the lymph to under my chin and across the left-hand side and up behind my ear and down my left shoulder as well. They all healed in time and I'm still alive to tell the story.
When this old bloke with an independent streak was told he had bowel cancer and would have to have his colon removed, he said, and I quote, "I'm buggered if I'm going to shit in a bag for the rest of my life." Because he had previously used black salve on skin cancers, he had faith in it and decided to roll a suppository-sized piece in flour and bake it in his oven until it hardened. Then, as he put it, I shoved it up my arse and in 5 days I shit that bastard cancer out. When he returned to the doctor, he got the all clear. But the doctor wouldn't listen when he tried to tell him how he cured himself.
We are not recommending this carefree approach to anyone, but we do think that surgeons might be open-minded about trying a gentle method prior to drastic disfiguring surgery. And you don't have to be a baker to try this method. A black salve-filled horse suppository will suffice. What have you got to lose? It only takes a few days to find out if this method will drive out the cancer. Surely an operation could be postponed briefly, but surgeons don't look at it that way. They are inclined to terrify patients and rush them off to the operating theater.
It's great for family pets, all sorts of animals in fact, including humans. I remember using it on a dog. The dog was going to have its leg amputated. That was the only choice the vet said the animal had. We applied the cream. 24 hours later there was a huge reaction. To cut a long story short, the dog's leg was saved as well as its life.
Fortunately, black salve is perfectly legal for our animal friends. Hundreds of heartwarming emails were sent to Elaine describing amazing recoveries of cats, dogs and horses.
The malignant melanoma on the dog's paw was the size of a marble. It was round, black and shiny. I was really surprised that an application removed it entirely the way it did. It's quite amazing.
Yet it's still illegal for humans. Absurd, really. But then, when you consider the track records of our leaders, not surprising. As a renowned 20th century poet says,
"Everything government touches turns to crap." Ringo Starr. Records exist of cures with escherichotics starting in the 15th century. Eli G. Jones, American physician and homeopath, left records of 4,300 cases of breast cancer he cured using an escherichotic. American Indians used similar formulas for many hundreds of years, and countless US entrepreneurs produced them using different formulas and many different names. They helped countless cancer victims until sales were stopped by governments. Overnight, they were unavailable to people who desperately needed them.
well, this is nothing new. What is new is that finally people can do something about it. Naturopath Adrian Jones did. He defied the government and used black salve when a patient came to him with melanoma on his forehead. It was right between his eyes, and it had spread to his brain.
The doctors had tried to take the melanoma off his face, but they were unable to treat the underlying secondary tumour. And of course, he was told that this would be a fatal event. So he came to me and he was absolutely desperate. We applied the cream to his forehead. There was a minor reaction, not the sort of reaction that I might have expected, but he had had surgery on the melanoma before, and we thought that maybe there was scarring in the tissue that may have prevented the full response that we were looking for. So we gave a second application about a week later, and this time there was a major reaction. And ensuing x-rays weeks later showed us that this cream had not only destroyed the primary tumour, the melanoma itself, but it also found its way through the roots and found its way back into the brain where there was the secondary tumour, and that was successfully treated as well. And now the guy is very happy and healthy.
In Australia and in most other countries, law-abiding citizens are forced to go underground to get the natural materials they need to maintain their health. This is not unique to black salve. This happens with dozens, hundreds of herbs that have been in use for centuries.
So, How can you protect yourself? By being creative. You can either make black salve yourself or buy it from someone who makes it for animals. If you opt to make it yourself, this is how it's done.
The first step when preparing your black salve is to put 50 grams each of bloodroot, chaparral, graviola, and galangal in a bowl. Next, pour 500 ml of distilled water into a pot. Then add 250 grams of zinc chloride to the water. Bring this mixture to the boil, stirring frequently to ensure there are no lumps. The FDA warns that zinc chloride is dangerous because it burns holes in the flesh. They use fear tactics to frighten people and doctors away from this inexpensive, safe answer to cancer. Yet this 100% zinc chloride is not damaging healthy tissue. It will, however, sting if it comes in contact with an open cut, and it stings when it is pulling cancerous tissue out of the body. Next, add the 4 dry herbs to the simmering mixture, stirring continuously until all the lumps disappear. This quantity would be enough to last you and your family and your friends more than a lifetime, so the recipe needs to be cut down to suit your needs. Once you have a smooth consistency, add 25 ml of DMSO, still stirring. DMSO acts as a carrier and helps take the formula deep into the tissues. Next, add 25 ml of glycerine and stir it in. This keeps the formula moist. Depending upon the humidity, you may have to add a bit more glycerine. Allow the mixture to simmer for about 15 minutes. When the mixture cools and cures, it isn't runny anymore, and it has a paste-like consistency. It is best used after it has been sitting for 2 days at room temperature. Then put the black salve in separate jars and store in your refrigerator. It will keep indefinitely, although it will dry out slightly. If this happens, simply add a little bit of water to rehydrate.
Dermatologists perceive black salve as a menace, but we cancer victims see it differently. We think it's so valuable that it should be in every medicine cabinet in every home.
But beware, there are companies all over the world selling so-called cancer cures in a salve under different names. Some of these are actually dangerous.
To protect people, we keep up-to-date details regarding suppliers on our website.
We recommend only one Australian supplier of black salve, and this is the only black salve we would use on ourselves or use on our animal friends.
Well, we don't sell black salve, and we don't have financial arrangements with anyone who does. If we did, we could go to prison. Governments are draconian when it comes to black salve. But they can't stop you from making it for yourself. And they can't stop you, at least not yet, from buying it from someone who is selling it for animal use. If you choose this route, just say, it's for my best friend, who happens to be a Rottweiler.
No one should ever die from melanoma. All I need to do is get them before they reach stage 3, and my treatment is an instant and permanent cure for the disease.
Big medicine throws everything they have at melanomas. Yet, one person dies every hour from this malignant skin cancer in the United States alone, while a safe option is ignored.
Of course, there isn't just one answer to cancer. We're not saying that. There have been many throughout the years, but most have been suppressed by the sickness industry. There is a machine that can zap melanomas in one treatment. I've seen it in action, on myself, and it's impressive. Fortunately, it has not been banned, at least not yet, but it has been ignored. As far as I know, only one physician understands its incredible potential and knows how to use it. His name is Dr. Gary Martin. He has been a godsend for me and for many like me in the treatment of melanomas.
I've been using a machine known as a hyfricator for 40 years, and this machine dramatically reduces the established medical procedures of referral, biopsy, excision, and at greatly reduced expense, and with incredibly good results, anywhere up from 95 to 98% success rate, cure rate at the very first setting. Over the 40 years that I've used the Hyfricator, I would have treated well over 20,000 patients very successfully with all stages of skin cancer, from dysplastic lesions, basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma to melanoma.
As Mahatma Gandhi said, non-cooperation with evil is a sacred duty.